Evening, folks. Welcome to the Leeds View podcast. This is our second podcast of the week. We do these twice a week on a Tuesday and on a Thursday, as well as daily Leeds United news every single day of the week with the odd tactical breakdown and watch along, as well as match reactions. You can check us out on all your audio platforms, Apple Music, podcasts, and Spotify, as well as on YouTube. And if you want to give us a follow, a subscribe, and a like on this video or channel rating, you can do so, and that helps to support the channel. We've got an 8% off code with OK jerseys if you want to get yourself some more World Cup shirts heading into a World Cup summer. You can check out that detail down below if you want to support the channel. That's the logistical, contractual obligations, sponsorship stuff out of the way. And I'm delighted to be joined tonight for our Academy View. We tend to do these once a year, and I'm delighted to have Gerry McDermott to join us again to have a little bit of a chat of the maybe potentially, if everything goes well, future stars of Leeds United or what's going on with the Leeds United Academy, and a kind of a deeper chat about the Leeds United Scouting Network and Academy Network that they've got in place right now. Gerry, how are you doing, mate? And thanks for taking time to talk to us.
I'm doing well, Ger, and again, thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to come on your show. And again, I know I keep repeating myself every time I come on, but I have to compliment you and how the show has grown and that tremendous work you're doing for Leeds United and spreading the word throughout Ireland and the UK and further afield. I believe you're seen all over the globe now.
Yeah, that one person in the Reunion Islands. Thanks very much for that watch. I really appreciate it. Yeah, we've got a bit of stuff, Jay. We've chatted loads over the last couple of
Yeah.
years. We talk to you regularly enough. You're obviously involved with the Camden Whites up in Dublin as well. Jerry, you're involved in lots of things with Leeds, but your involvement with Leeds goes back further than just the Camden Whites and just the social element of Leeds United. You've been involved with bringing teams from Leeds to Ireland for the Galway Cup, but you're also part of scouting for Leeds during your lifetime for in Ireland as well. And I want to talk to you about that. Firstly, I want to talk about the Galway Cup and bringing Leeds United sides across to Ireland to play in that Galway Cup and how important that's been.
Yeah, I think it's very important. Actually, the Galway Cup is the first week in August. The competition that's coming on this weekend is run by Mary Ordenmore. I think it's a place you're very familiar with. And
I know Ormore. Played there.
Again, Leeds just love coming over here for two reasons. They love the hospitality, the friendliness of the Irish. And I think anybody who came over for the game in Dublin last August will verify that. And the second thing is what they get over here that they don't always get in the academy system is physicality. The Irish kids may not be on the same level technically as the players in the UK because of the time factor. In the UK, the young boys in the academy get a lot more time, a lot more coaching. It's a better structure. But what the Irish kids give them is that bit of grit, that physicality in your face, and it's a test for them, you know.
Yeah, it's a big part of development as well, the physical side of things. We've seen that this year with the likes of Harry Gray going out on loan to Rotherham in League One. I think the first thing his manager said after his first game is he's got a grazed knee and a bruised eye, but he'll be all right. He'll get used to this pretty quickly. And he did. And that's part of the development is, as Andy Cousins said when he was on the channel earlier this year, he said, it's about these young lads going and playing against men. You know, and as Daniel Farke words it, men, fathers of boys themselves who can go and actually mix it a bit and get used to that step up.
See, one of the things about the Premier League, and we all look at the skill set, we all look at the individual players and what they can do with the ball. As I say, some of the players can make the ball dance, but we don't see, unless you're close up to the action, the physicality, the pace. I mean, the perfect example, if you look at some of the players like Jayden Bogle, Brendan Aronson, Joe Roden, when they come off the field, they're absolutely shattered. They need a full day to actually just recover. Their body has been tested to the limit. You don't get that on the continent. Even in the best leagues in Spain, in Germany, players can take breathers in the game, not in the Premier League. And that's one of the things these kids have to get used to. It's not just the technical stuff and the ability on the ball and moving the ball quickly, and they have to learn to cope with the physicality. And the same with players that come in from other leagues from Europe. I think Daniel Farke addresses that quite a bit. You've seen it, Buonanotte last Sunday. He was lost. the Birmingham players were in his face, they were closing him down, they were winning second balls, winning their challenges. And the lad was lost because he comes from Argentina, hadn't got a lot of game time. And the poor lad was just lost. And Brendan Aronson has had to adapt, and quite a few of the, even and Noah Okafor is in the same situation as well. Like, you have to learn to cope with the physicality, and sometimes it can take a year or so or a season to get up to that levels. One of the things why the academies love coming over here, we give them that physicality, and it gives them an insight.
You don't always like it, Gerry.
Sorry?
The young lads don't always like it though when they come over here and get a few kicks.
No, because a lot of the Irish boys play Gaelic football, as you know. Some play hurling, probably some play rugby. And as you know, in the Gaelic football, they get stuck in, as to say. It's very physical, and the hurling, you know.
Yeah.
And the only thing I would say, I go back to the 90s when Andy Cousins, you mentioned Andy, and you mentioned, you know, even when Gary Kelly, Stephen McPhail even addressed this. He said it took him a good 9 months even to get up to the pace, and he had come from a very good setup at Home Farm. But the Northern Intermediate League was a great grounding. And I think Eddie Gray, or even people that were involved in, would say that they give them that grounding, the physicality. They were playing teams like Barnsley and teams like that, Sheffield Wednesday, Sheffield United, and it was a cup final. It was like what you seen last Sunday. Everybody got stuck in. Everybody had to win their battles. Everybody had to do their bit for the team, and no passengers.
Farkas talked about it again today in his press conference about the fact that James Justin is captain material, Yacobiol is captain material, Ethan Ampadu is the general in the middle of the park. You've got leaders on the pitch and you've got leaders in the dressing room. So all of that helps. And these young players, Gerry, because that's what we're here to talk about, we'll learn from these players. And we've got one of them playing centre half with the side at the moment, with Johnny Howson being on the park with a lot of these players, being able to coach them and talk to them while they're playing right now, which is a huge benefit. It's one thing having coaches on the sideline trying to give you advice during a match. It's a different thing. We've got a player of Johnny Howson's experience standing in the middle of the park with you, telling you what you should do. That experience is vital to these players, and it's very unusual to have that scenario where you've got a player that can still play like Johnny and also be able to pass on that experience while playing with them.
That's very important. You made a very good point there, Ger. Communication. And I'd say that's one of the things that's missing as well in modern day football. We're too quiet. And that's going on. I think even Pep Guardiola said it. Everyone is too quiet. And we're placid. And you have to be a bit of a bully out in the football field. What you are off the field, you know. But older viewers will remember Norman Hunter, Billy Bremner, even Giles, people like that. I mean, Don Revie once said to me, he said, if Leeds didn't play well in the first half, he says, I didn't have to do the talking in the dressing room. He said, Billy did it, or Norman Hunter did it, or Jack Charlton did it. They pointed the fingers. They kind of told players, if you weren't putting it in, you better either do it or ship out. And that's the way it is. You know what? You know, you can't have feelings in the game. You can't say, I don't want to hurt the guy's feelings. It's professional football. It's dog eat dog. And you know what the Leeds fan base is like. We want to win. And the Leeds fan base are the best in the world. They travel everywhere and anywhere. And that was important as well at Birmingham. You know, people might say, the cup doesn't really matter. Tell that to, was it 4,000 or 5,000 was there in St. Andrews?
Correct.
They deserved that win because they've been through it for years, for many years. And I think we've had this discussion. The Leeds fan base has been mistreated, have been taken for granted, haven't had the respect. And it's time that players that go on that pitch realise what it is being Leeds, that we have to give something back to the fans. That's my opinion on it anyway.
I completely agree.
And I think that's something maybe Johnny Howson will impart. And I think one of the things Daniel Farke is doing, he is bringing up quite a few of them into the first team. And I do like Ethan Ampadu. I think he's got it. I think he knows what it's been Leeds. And these kids, it's best to tell them sooner rather than later. You have to know what it's about being Leeds. You have to fight to the death. And everybody wants to beat us. Even in the Premier League, they all are waiting. Leeds are coming in. We want to do them. And yeah, Roy Keane, you say that about Man United, and he was right. He says everyone wants to beat us. Well, the same with Leeds, and it goes back over our history. Clubs want to beat us. We go down to Chelsea. The Chelsea fans they would rather beat us, even though we're a promoted side, than beat someone from London. Beat Fulham or someone like that. Man U, they're dying to beat us. They love beating us. Even Liverpool. Everyone wants to beat Leeds, and that's what these young players have got to understand from it. You have to be on your A game. There's no such thing as a shrinking violet out there,
No, there's not. And that's a huge part of it as well. I mean, the likes of Sam Byram and the senior dressing room, and we're going to talk about the young players as well, but Daniel Farke does have several of the under 21s that are training with the first team squad on a regular basis, and they're around that. And players like Sam Byram, who's come through the academy, like Johnny Houston as well, like Aaron Lennon, who's involved in their 18s now as well, who've come through the academy, who've gone on to have careers in the Premier League and as professional footballers, being able to impart that knowledge and that experience more than anything else to these younger players. And probably at a time where it was tougher to try and get through the ranks there. It didn't have it maybe as easy. We talked today about a certain player in the club who's a young lad who's driving a Beamer. They weren't driving Beamers when they were 18 years of age. They were cleaning somebody's boots, So it's a different time, but still being able to pass that knowledge on is huge. Gerry, one thing I wanted to really talk about, because of your background and the history that you've got with Leeds and Ireland, what have you seen change in terms of scouting over the years? In terms of what, because we talked about this again yesterday, and I wanted to have that conversation on the pod, which was there's just not that many Irish kids coming through Leeds anymore. And there was a time where there was loads of them. They were coming through every year or two. And we should always, with this podcast for this particular episode, we should caveat everything. People want to see all the kids come through and make it. Give the kids a chance. Play the kids. If an academy is producing one player every 2 years or every year or two, they're doing very, very well to even do that. Most clubs will only manage 1 or 2 stars a year, and then the rest will, drip feed down the different tiers of the leagues and maybe come back up with different clubs. But Leeds always had a habit of producing a really nice Irish player from time to time, and they had strong connections in Ireland with Home Farm and other clubs here as well. What's changed over the years, and what have you seen from the overall scouting perspective when it comes to scouting players that are closer to home for Leeds, and then the Irish connection as well?
Just go back a little bit. Even though there's a lot of physicality in the Irish players, probably the thing with the Irish players now, a lot of them play 2-3 sports. I think I'm going to have a funny theory on this. The Dublin and District Schoolboys League was at its peak in the 90s. And most of the kids from places like Tala, Ballyfermot, Ballymun, these are all working class estates in Dublin. But most of the kids played football. When I say football, okay, soccer, but I like to call it football. I have a theory. Gaelic football took over in Dublin. I mean, for those from across the water, Gaelic football is probably the number one sport still. Gets the most publicity, most attention, most TV in Ireland. And Dublin dominated. They won something like 8-9 All-Irelands. So the top young players at, say, 9, 10, 11, 12, whatever, were playing Gaelic football. I go back to the 90s, the Robbie Keanes, Andy Reeds, Damien Duffs, even Stephen McPhail, Alan Mabry, Gary Kelly, who was from Lough but played in the Dublin and District Schoolboys League, Ian Hart. Soccer was the only sport that played football. And the other thing is they just wanted it. I think because they came from these tough areas, it was their way out. And also, football was their life. They didn't go to school half the time. Legislation wasn't as strict. And
I might have been one of them.
yeah, well, I think a lot of what our generation will know about skipping school, and your parents didn't have to sign forms or have the guards or the police calling to the house wondering where you are, you know.
Mm.
And the kids just played on the street. They played alleyways. Johnny Giles played in kind of a big rectangular area up against the wall. That's the other thing as well. What do kids really want? Like, they go to the academy and whatever, they get 2 hours or whatever, then they're gone. But if they think that's enough, it's never enough.
So,
Back then, the kids were always playing football. You know that. It was
yeah.
our it was the one thing we loved, we thrived on. We didn't want to be indoors. Your mum and dad had to come out and take you in at whatever, 11 o'clock at night, 12 o'clock at night. We
The
played
street
under
lights
the
came on.
lights. Yeah,
Yeah.
everything. I have to say, in a way, you look at what's the kids now have. There's so many distractions. The,
Mm.
the phone, mobile phones, laptops, iPhones, whatever you want, and to have all that. So probably things have changed, and I just think, going back again to the 90s, the Dublin and District Schoolboys League was remarkable for producing players. But I remember being told it was the best schoolboy league in Europe back then. And I just don't know whether the academies are really getting into it like back then. And I mean, Cork was a great area. Look at
Yeah.
Dennis Irwin, Roy Keane. You go with Waterford, John O'Shea, the Hunts all came from
Kevin
Waterford.
Doyle.
Wexford, Kevin Doyle,
Mm.
Shane Long from Tipperary. So there was a spread of young players coming through. Donegal was another area. And I just think it's not happening now. Now, I think investment is very important. I think full-time coaching is very important, that coaches go in and get a full week's wages, that they're not coming in part-time. Their teachers are coming in from jobs. You have to give it everything now. And that's my take on it. I just think that times have changed, but I think the game has moved on. Countries that Ireland would have been ahead of. I mean, you go back to the 90s, Ireland was ahead of places like the USA or Canada, places like that. Now they have taken over against Ireland. They're
Investment,
better.
isn't it?
They're better structures. They're better
Yeah.
coaching systems, etc., etc. So I do think, yeah, we have to go back in a way to what we were doing in the 90s, and the games have to be. Yeah, I was talking to one of the lads at St. Pat's there during the week, Ian Birmingham, and Ian made a good point. He says the the games in Dublin, the academy games, are still like cup finals, and that was always the case back then in the Dublin and District Schoolboys League. But we have to go around the country, and we have to get some of the lesser counties up to that level so that they can compete. It's no point one team beating another 7, 8, 9-0. It needs to be dog eat dog, cup
Yeah.
final, 1-0, 2-1, or whatever.
There's a lot more distractions and things have changed. I mean,
And
I
Brexit
did.
is a big factor as
Well,
well.
I was gonna say there's the
Yeah, I
geopolitical
mean,
side of things as well.
I have to say this, and I know it's a little bit political, but if we have young players at 13, 14, 15 with huge potential, if they have to wait until they're 18
Yeah, that's a problem.
to go over to the UK, I mean, Eddie Gray always said it. Look at the teams that we had in David O'Leary's group and before that, and we were winning youth cups in the 90s. Those lads at 18, 19, 20 were already in the first team. I look at Gary Kelly. Gary Kelly was still a teenager in 94 in the World Cup. I remember Ray Tracy saying around 94, 95, he was probably in the top 3 best fullbacks in the world back then. And he was still a teenager. Now, I think we're overprotecting kids as well. If you're going, look at Wayne Rooney as an example, 16. James Milner was in the first team at 16. Aaron Lennon was in the first team at 16. And now we're saying they're too young.
Yeah.
Put them in there and see how they do.
Well, Gerry, let's talk about a few of the kids, because there's been plenty of people who've been sending messages in over the last couple of days since we've been talking about this, about certain players. Now, we've covered the Harry Greys in the past streams. You can check all them out on the channel if you want to get them. So we're going to try and cover a couple of players that people have asked about. I'm going to get this question out of the way really quickly, Gerry, because everyone's asking it. Are there any more Greys? How many more Greys do we have? And I know we can't always name names because if they're under a certain age, we can't.
I'm not going to name their first names. No. There's three. Two of them are Andy's, and the other the late Stuart. So there's three more below Harry.
Okay, so we have a team of.
But I'm not going to name the first names. I just to let you know there is three more.
Yeah, the club don't like us doing that. They don't like us mentioning under.
Well, there are people that. And you're putting pressure on them because of the name Gray. People are
exactly
and we don't like to do it, but we still make the assumption.
Yeah, I get excited.
There's another one coming through. There's another one. There's no guarantee. I mean, go back to Eddie. Stuart didn't make it at Leeds. You know, Andy didn't make it at Leeds. You know, yes, he was probably the best player on the park in '96 in the League Cup final. I think he would have been only 17, but he didn't really go on and make it at Leeds. So there's no guarantees. So I wouldn't be putting that kind of pressure on just because they're Greys, you know. And again, Daniel Farke have said that just because the name is Gray doesn't mean you're automatically going to get a position. And I watched Harry a few times at Rotherham, and he's not grabbing the game by the scruff of the neck. Yeah, he's got 2 goals, but in many games, if he's going to go in and play it in the Premier League, he's got to do more than that. You have to be honest. I mean, it's a cruel business, and there's no room for sentiment. I mean, if he goes in, and Daniel Farke, I would agree with him. If he goes in and doesn't score a goal in 10 games, you know what people are going to say.
Oh, we know what will happen. We saw,
and they're not going to say, he's only 17 years of age.
No,
you know,
they won't be. Like, why is he not doing it? It shouldn't be in the team.
Someone will say, well, Wayne Rooney was doing it at 16.
Yeah, but I mean, they're not. Players are different. They mature at different ages.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
At different
speeds. I mean, I hope he does. Don't get me wrong. I hope.
I think he will. I think he will.
He's hungry enough. I just think he has to learn. He has to learn the basics. He has to learn, as someone said, the dark arts of football as well. You know,
which he
will do. Yeah,
he will in League One at Rotherham. And I mean, I watched his first game, and it was a struggle. I think he's got better as the games have gone on. He's definitely adjusting to the level and the competitive nature. I think the fact that we're all happy about, we've seen what Lucas mentioned in recent weeks as well, is you might not always be in the game, but if you get a half a chance, you can score it, and that's a huge part for a striker. So he's got that, but this is the whole point of these loans, and Daniel Farke said it, and Eddie Gray has said pretty much the exact same thing as well. Do it in League One, prove yourself, then do it in the Championship, prove yourself, and then you get your crack at the Premier League and prove yourself. And you've got to keep proving yourself. And if you manage to blow one of them out of the water, maybe you skip a step and go into the Premier League again, but you got to prove it.
The best striker probably in Europe, I know it's debatable, it's probably Harry Kane. Well, people will probably know Harry went out on loan 4 times when he was at Spurs. Millwall, Orient, MK Dons, and Leicester. And each report that came back, he's not good enough to be a Premier League player. Never mind be the best striker in the world. And he possibly is the best striker in the world at the moment.
Right now, his goals would suggest he is.
I know people would say the Bundesliga is not the Premier League, but
they have to do it.
There to score goals.
You still have to do it. You know, it's not like he's playing in the pub league. It's still a top European league, and you still got to do it. And again, you're playing with players of an equal level around you, so the supply is not always going to be the same. So you still got to do it. Right, the first one we're going to chat about, Gerry, is we've got 4 that we're going to chat about. I mean, we'll see if we have time. We've got about 10-ish minutes or so left before we want to wrap up. So the first one is, his name's popped up again this week. He's been very good for the 21s this season. Is Alfie Cresswell. Obviously, again, like the Greys, he gets comparison to his brother and his father, because Richard and and Charlie were at the club, and Charlie's gone on to have 2 cracking seasons at Toulouse and is now being valued at anything between 25 and 30 million. Has got clubs banging his door down. It'd be an interesting summer for him. Alfie's had a slightly different journey. He's still very highly thought of at the club. They decided this year, because of his height, that it wasn't going to be a case that they were going to use him as a centre back, and they pushed him into midfield. And he's been operating in this kind of central defensive midfield, central midfield role. And we covered the stats during the week on the news. There's a lot of comparisons to him and Ethan Ampadu in terms of ball distribution, passes per games, tackles per games, duels that they win, all those kind of metrics. But he's got a contract at Leeds until 2028. He's still just 18 years of age. He's ever present in the Leeds United under 21 side. He's captained the under 21s as well. Obviously, he's played international football at youth level as well. He's very much been part of the Leeds United first team's training group over different times over the course of this season. Now, the Leeds under 21 side has taken a bit of a hammering in terms of losing a load of players who've all gone out on loan. As a result, the results have been tougher for them. But it's given other players that we're going to talk about here from a younger age a chance to come through as well. But Alfie seems to be one of the standouts at the moment in the 21s. He's probably still a ways off the first team. So before anyone sticks in the comments, stick him in the first team. He's Charlie's brother. He's probably still a ways off of that, yeah. But in terms of what he needs to do during 21s, Leeds like these stretch targets for these young players, 18 years of age and a captain of the 21 side. That bodes well for his future, assuming, and development's not a linear process, but assuming he continues to develop the way he is. He seems to be doing all the right things right now.
Yeah, well, the first thing I'd say, it's probably the toughest position to break into now. I always say the midfield is your engine room. If you dominate the midfield, you'll probably go on and win the game. So you really want, whether you play 3 in the central midfield or 4 across, you want quality in there. Now, the funny thing is, Alfie never came to the Gold Cup, but Charlie came 3 times. And I used to look after his granddad. It was his granddad that used to come over with him, Mick. And I remember Mick saying something that, as young boys, Alfie was, in their eyes, was a better footballer than Charlie. But what I'll say about Charlie, I've never ever, in my time involved with Leeds coming to the Gold Cup from 2013 onwards, except for COVID, I've never seen a player with a better attitude. He was phenomenal and believed in himself, had that confidence. Well, what an attitude. The kind of guy you go to war with. You know, he'd look after you. He'd have your back. Now, if Alfie has any kind of those traits in him, he has a great chance. Because from what Mick said many, many years ago, probably there's more in his capability as a footballer than Gerry. So I think he would have a chance, but it's a very tough position. What I mean is, because of his size and physicality, it was easier for Charlie to make a name for himself at central back than it will be for Alfie to cement a position in midfield. Like, you look at our midfield now, just say you wanted to put him in, who would you take out?
But that's the question.
It'd be a very tough one. Who would you take out? You know, and there's about 4 or 5 in there ahead of him. So I think he has a chance, but it's a tough position to play in.
Yeah, there's some interesting statistics that were thrown out. I think the line that was used was Leeds United's Ethan Ampadu long-term replacement is currently playing in the academy. That's what they're looking at, maybe, because we talked about this as well yesterday. Every player's got a price tag, whether Ethan Ampadu commits to Leeds long-term or not. He's got a contract till the end of next season. If somebody comes in with a big enough offer and he wants to go and play in European football, and, you know, things happen, players move on, they're not always going to stay forever at Leeds. But when you look at what he's done side by side, there's a lot of similarities in the two. Lower center of gravity, very physical player, very, very bulky player as Alfie. He's a proper grafter. And if he's got the attitude that his father and his brother had,
well,
he can be absolutely fine.
If he has anything like what Charlie had, he has a great chance. And it was attitude, application, desire that got Charlie where he is today. I mean, I've the utmost respect for Charlie Cresswell. He didn't make it at Leeds. Initially, he went
Back
down
and
to
stuff though.
Millwall, did well
Yeah.
at Millwall, then came back to Leeds, still couldn't get through. And then he took the big step of going to France. Didn't speak
Yeah.
the language, but look at the impression he's made over there. And you would probably know more about what he's doing in France, because I don't really follow the game on the continent apart. I
Mm.
might know a bit about the
He's
German
doing
league,
very
but
well. Top
but
top two
from what I
defensive stats
gather,
in the
he's
French
done
league right now.
exceptionally well. Yeah,
Yeah, top two defensive stats in the
yeah.
league at the moment.
So to get back to Alfie, I do think he has a chance. It's difficult. You watch the under 21s, and some probably here watch the under 21s. There's a massive difference between watching 21s and then going watching first team football, especially in the Premier League. And when we have to remember now, the Premier League is probably the best league in the world. Even it surpassed all the others: Serie A, La
Yeah.
Liga, even Bundesliga. So you're talking about the best league in the world. So you need to be a special player to break in.
Yeah. The next player we're going to talk about is a centre half. He's a very young centre half, but again is playing a part of 20. It's kind of a breakout season for him with the academy in terms of getting into the 21 side at a very young age. And that's Jake Howard, or Jacob Howard, or known as Jake Howard. Jake's 16 years of age. And I've managed to get a fair bit of detail on Jake as well, having to dig
Mm,
around. He's pretty much becoming an ever present at centre half for Leeds. He's a big
mm.
lad in at centre back. But as I say, he's only 16 years of age, doesn't turn 17, I think, until the end of
I
this
think he's
month in
17
February.
next month or something. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
He made his Leeds debut for the 21 to 15 years of age. He played against
yes.
Halifax in the FL Cup, or the National League Cup, one of those two. But he also made his debut for the team in the EPL 2 at 15 years of age as well. He's been called up to
Mm,
the England under 15 side as well. So he's got England underage international football under his belt. He has been described, and I'm going to give you a quote from a man himself. Johnny Howson has described Jacob Howard in the same bracket as Matthew Kilgallen and Jonathan Woodgate. He said he's a ball playing centre back, and he's probably one of the players that he thinks has the biggest future. Again, assuming he continues to go on the development track that he's on right now, which again isn't a guarantee. But Jake looks like a proper prospect for Leeds, and the fact that he's playing beside Johnny Howson as well, he's picking up that experience that we talked about already, playing regularly for under 21s. And from the games I've watched Jake playing, he looks very comfortable at under 21 level. And I say he's a very big young lad as well.
yeah, he's a very strong, uh, competitive player. Very good on the ball. Well,
Yeah.
what he loves to do, and think about it, and I think you think back to Bijal at the moment. He loves to defend, loves to put his body on the line. He's not afraid to get it in the face or other parts. He just loves a clean sheet. Um, it's a big ask to say Woodgate, because I thought Jonathan Woodgate was one of the best central defenders we ever
Absolutely.
had. I remember Eddie Gray describing him at 15 as the best centre half at that age in the world, because he had played in the Dallas Cup, which was a big competition back then. Um, but Jacob, great attitude, lovely lad. I had him at the Goba Cup the year before last, and loves to win. Um, so he has a very, very good chance. And if he keeps focused, keeps applying himself, and he's a similar in a way to Charlie Cresswell. My only little reservation about the lad, and I try to balance out everything I say
Yeah.
about players, is pace. And but then again, I don't think Bijal is the quickest defender in the world. But
No,
I always
long
say
stride
with
though.
defenders, you look at, say, Paul McGrath, you look at Lucas Radebi, to say the first yard is in your head. So what he'll have to do is read the game better, and then make up for that yard that, you know, he can't allow. The likes of Haaland, he couldn't. If he was up against Haaland, I'm not saying he was ready for Haaland yet, but
Yeah.
you can't afford to give a player in the Premier League that half a yard, never mind a yard. And that's my only little reservation. So he's got to work on that. Is I always say with defenders, your starting position is key. You know,
Oh, huge.
a yard. John Giles used to have a great saying: a yard either side, right, left, ahead, or behind, is the difference between stopping a goal or letting one in.
Yeah, scoring one yourself.
So
Yeah,
I think,
there's lots like that as
again,
well.
I have to, what you said, he's 16-year-old kid.
It's
So,
time.
and that's a specialist position. So he's learning the game. He's alongside Johnny House, and I think, and I think he's a great attitude. So I think he will have a good chance. I wouldn't be surprised if he breaks through in the next 2-3 years.
Yeah, it'd be an interesting one to keep an eye on because again, playing for under-21s on a regular basis at 16, and again, Leeds had those stretch targets. If you're better than the age group that your age is at, they'll push you to the next one. But they've pushed them past the 18s and into the 21, so they clearly see that there is something in Jake there as well. So yeah, look again with Jake and with Alfie, wish them all the best and fingers crossed that they do continue to go. Two attacking players, Gerry, before we wrap up. We've talked about Ollie Pickles before, but at the start of the season, incredibly well for Leeds United on 21s. He's been with the 18s as well. He's 18 years of age. He's played in a multitude of positions this year for Leeds. He's normally a kind of a central midfield, attacking midfielder. He's played in the right wing. He's also played as a wing back as well at times this year for the 21s. But he still looks like a very bright young prospect for Leeds and definitely one of the more busy players. We talked about getting up and down the pitch. He definitely, to me, always looks like one of the more busy players Leeds have on the park.
Yeah, I think you nailed it there. You said that first half of the season, I'm playing with better players around them because the better ones have gone out on loan now. That's just the way they have to do to develop for themselves. They have to go out and, as Liam Cooper said to Ollie Casey a few years ago, Ollie, there's no point you playing under 21s anymore. You've got to go and play the men's game. And that's where a lot of them are gone. Ollie is very, very talented. There's a great engine in him. And again, he's finding his levels. Again, he probably his best position would be midfield. And going back to what I said about Alfie Cresswell, it's a very difficult position to break into. It's not easy. Look at who's in our midfield at the moment, and I have a thing in my head that Leeds are going to go out and strengthen, and I think they're going to bring in even one or two more midfield players. I think one or two will move on, maybe three from that area, because it's a key area. It's that engine room, as I call it. So it will be tough. I think a lot of luck will be involved there. I think he's on the peripheral now, whether he can break into it or not. Just to go back, I just think you mentioned earlier, quite a few of these boys are up with the first team. And I know it's a simple thing to say, you've got to put their hands up, but they've got to get in there and say to the first team players, listen, I'm coming after your shirt. I believe in myself that I can take your position. And that's what they have to do. That's the game now. It's very difficult for young players now to break through because of the levels the game has gone to now in the Premier League,
Yeah, and if you think about it as well, the under-21s and the academy side are always adding players as well. So it's not just even the first team adding players. You look at the under-21s, they've added Njenge from Nigeria has come in to play for the under-21s. Well, he yet to play, but will play. Give him a chance to just settle into life in Yorkshire. Jacob Lenu came in. Jaden Lenu, came in from Manchester City earlier this season. I keep forgetting the last name that came in from Liverpool as well. So they're constantly bringing in players. Marcus, who came in from Liverpool. So they're constantly bringing in players as well and trying to keep the academy strong as well. And when the Manchester Cities and the Liverpools who've been stockpiling young players for years, as we know, Spurs doing the same with Oliver Boast as well, taking players from Leeds. There are other players that will become available as a result of that are still very good. So Leeds are still keeping their eye open. There's one other young player who, speaking of clubs that are keeping an eye on Leeds players, this is the last one we talk about before we wrap up. And it's Sam Alker. Now, Sam is a 16-year-old central attacking midfielder, kind of in the 10 bracket. Very slight figure, small lad, which, again, going back to the physicality stuff, might just slow things down a little bit. But he's being watched by Spurs. He's been watched by Manchester City, who like looking at our under-16 team a lot. But he, again, he's capped at under 18 level for England as well. So there's talent in there with Sam as well. Very creative player, has played for under-21s, has probably had a bigger impact with the 18s this year than he has done with the under-21s. And again, that comes down to the physicality aspect. But he has still scored a couple of goals with the under-21s as well. So Sam's one to keep an eye on. I'm not 100% sure on this, so don't hold this against me, but I think Sam might be out of contract at the end of the year, and they might need to, or he's moving out of a scholars deal and they need to sort out something after that. But if that is the case, there's probably work to be done there with Sam, but looks to be a decent young prospect at this point.
Again, fantastic ability on the ball, looks after it well, very, very good in tight situations, good feet, moves the ball well. But you're after saying this, and we've already touched on it a few times in this conversation. And it's funny, Leeds at academy level are looking at the type of player they're bringing in. And for the last number of years, they've had a lot of very, very good, talented, technical players, but they don't seem to be able to make the breakthrough. And I think they're looking at the physicality. Definitely, there's an old saying, a good big player is better than a good small player. And the one thing now is covering the ground, the power, the strength, all that. And I think fitness, etc., etc. I think that is one of the things they're really looking at. So just to go back, I just think that's my concern about him, is that will he really grow? And when I say grow, will his body fill out? And will he be strong enough to cope with the rigors of the Premier League? Like people say, you're only playing 38 games as against 46 from the Championship, but you're playing it at such an electrifying pace, and the body hits and everything.
Oh, they're big.
And then, you're coming off literally you need 24 hours nearly to recover, just to get your body back to some form of, normality again. And that's, people are forgetting that. And as I said, those that probably are closer to the action, that are down lower at the games, will probably see how quick the game is now. And it's not just about tempo now. It's about being good on the ball. I mean, the players now are more skillful than ever I've seen in the game, and they're definitely more athletic than I've ever seen in the game. But one interesting one, and I've touched on them before, and I did say the last time I was asked who's the one that would come out, I thought Charlie Crew. It's interesting. He went to Doncaster and did very well at Doncaster. Went back on loan this season, but hasn't really.
Managers seem to be an issue with that, because he kept making a comment about the fact that he was playing international football and it was halting his season. I thought that's an unusual comment for a manager to make, that suggests the manager can't integrate an international level footballer in his team, which I thought was odd. And he seemed to suffer more from circumstance necessary than ability, because when he did seem to play, he seemed to play pretty well.
He did very well the first time at Doncaster, not so well the second time.
Yeah.
He's had injuries. Maybe he was struggling with injuries, but he's back now. It's interesting. He's back now, nearly at full fitness. But it's funny, in the press conference, that none of the, the journalists have mentioned them. And I'm just wondering, it's no point him going in playing 21s football. He was there over a year ago. He can't go back to that. Now he can't go on loan. So does he come back into the equation? Is he good enough to put pressure on those in the midfield? I mean, he's a talented player. Don't get me wrong. He can get on the ball. He can see a pass. He can hit long, short passes. Again, I just think, it goes back to, he's got to do more. He's got to want to do more. He's got to have that extra pep in his step, But he's one. And the other one that I mentioned as well the last time was Logan White. He's a midfielder that scores goals. And again, he's only a young boy, 17, stepped up to the 21s and was doing well. Then he got a bad injury, but I believe he's maybe a week or two away from getting back in. He's one I'd watch, because you don't get that many goal-scoring midfielders. We're talking about the qualities of midfield and how hard it is to break in. I think the one thing, and you look at our midfield, the one thing we're probably missing is Lee Boyer. Our Gary's speed. the
proper
guy
box
that
to
will
box.
get you 10 to 15 goals a
Mm.
season from midfield. And I think that's what we need at the moment. We can't be relying on Dominic Calvert-Lewin or Imecha or those players to get goals for you. We have to get midfield players into goal scoring positions. And I just say, I remember a young player at Leeds many years ago. He came into the first team at 17. He made his debut against Middlesbrough the same day as Harry Kewell. And after the game, Eddie Gray was always one that would test the player, and he always used to say, "How do you think you did?" And the young lad says, "Yeah, I kept the ball well, I passed it well, I got on the ball, etc." And this is a midfield player, and Eddie says, "How many overlaps did you get in? How many times did you get into the box? How many strikes did you get on goal?" And the young lad was kind of thinking, "Oh, I don't know." He says, "They're what I'm looking for." And I think that's what we're looking for midfield now is we're looking at these players that can get into the box. Lee Boyer, that third man running or coming off the shoulder, he was phenomenal. I mean, I always say, you talk about great midfield players that could get goals. Well, we all know about Lampard could get them. Gerrard could get them. Scholes could get them. Lee Boyer could get them. Gary Speake could get them. Like, that's what we really need is, I mean, I probably mightn't get it right, but am I right in thinking that John Giles and Billy Bremner got 115 goals each? Is it 115? Something like that. And like, that's phenomenal goals from midfield. So that's what we're looking at. You look at our midfield, how many goals have we actually got this season with 12 games to go from midfield players?
Not a huge amount, not a huge amount.
I mean, Ampadu's got one. I think Anton Stack has got two. Well, Brendan Aronson, he's a bit of a floater between 10 and
10,
midfield. I think he's only got three. Grove hasn't scored. I mean, probably the best goal scoring, and he can't get into the team, is Tanaka. I'm nearly sure he's got three. Maybe one was in the cup. So you think about their small numbers. So that's the one thing, going back to Logan White. He knows how to get into the box and get goals. And I think that's midfield players have to have that instinct about them to have to sometimes gamble and get into the box, because you're 25, 30 yards from goal. You're not going to score from there.
No. Billy Bremner and John Giles combined scored 179 goals for Leeds. Bremner got 91, Giles got 88. According to Wikipedia, someone will correct me on that.
No, I just thought they were over 100, but it doesn't really matter.
Well, Farrah could talk about getting goals from everywhere in the park this year and people weighing them.
Well,
luckily enough, our strikers have been fit enough to score the goals, but it won't always be the case. You know, Lee Bowyer scored 38 goals in 203 appearances for Leeds.
Yeah,
and that was actually his best.
I'd say
That's
McAllister
more
got
than
a fair whack of goals. Gary Speake.
Oh God, yeah. Well, Bowyer's 38 goals. It's 38 of his career total of 68. So more than half of his goals were scored at Leeds. That he scored again. But again, everyone will remember Lee Bowyer sprinting into the edge of a box in a yellow shirt that was oversized, hanging off of him, smashing the ball into the corner and running off into the crowd. So it was something that happened on a regular enough basis. But yeah, that mold of player isn't. I've actually just seen a goal.
The older viewers would know this expression, and it goes back to a goal scoring midfield player that played at West Ham, Martin Peters, and they used to say midfielders need to ghost into the box, because you're thinking they're running from a deep position, so they have to just get the timing right, and when they go, it's very hard to detect them. Like strikers are playing, the defenders are looking at the striker, so when they see the run, they're checking the run. Midfield player is running from deep, and I mean, look at Bogle. When Jayden Bogle, when he's playing as a wing back, when he gets in his stride, like the amount of times he gets into the box, and if you were looking at the opposition, you say, who's tracking him? And you've said it a few times, even when we were conceding goals. Remember, Gerry, you made this very, very valid point. The amount of times players didn't track their runners.
Yeah, ball watching. Yeah,
because you switch off, and if you switch off for a second or a fraction of a second, even in the Premier League, you're out of the game. Eddie Gray always said this one thing. Just think it is. stay in the game, and that's with the ball and without the ball.
Yeah.
And you say it's like if your player runs off your shoulder or gets in behind you,
Oh, you're done.
You're out of the game.
Yeah, you
So
won't catch up with them.
he always used to say that. That was another thing, is stay in the game.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you used to see when Lee Bowyer scored goals, you'd see him running onto the ball at full pace, which means he wasn't stationary and the ball was being played in. And when you look at Jayden Bogle, when he does ghost into the box, as you said, he tends to be running onto the ball at full pelt. And it's very hard to stop a player when he's running past you at full speed. Any kind of a touch is either likely to be a penalty or a free kick.
The one player I like now, and again, I look at other, no more than yourself, I look at other teams. I do like Declan Rice, and I know that's a sore point for the Irish supporters.
Because he's not playing for us, but we get over it.
I admire him because he works both sides.
Yeah, he does.
You know, there's two aspects to the game, with the ball and without the ball. Yeah. And good players are good in both situations.
Yeah, yeah, it is. Gerry, absolute pleasure, as always.
It's always a pleasure, Gerry, and I hope your viewers enjoyed it. And I look forward to hearing or seeing some of the what their views are, what they think of things that I might have brought up, and what you have said as well, Gerry. And again, keep up the good work.
Well, thank you, mate. And if you're not watching the Academy, you should be. If you got a Leeds United membership, you get access to watch their games on LUTV for free through your membership. You can check all that detail out. It is it's an entertaining Leeds United under 21 side right now. The results are not all going their way right now, but again, there's a lot of them going out unknown. But it is a very young side. There are some of the players in that squad that got to the U Cup final 2 years ago. There's a good bunch there, and they are an exciting, determined bunch of players. I've not. There hasn't been a game this season I haven't enjoyed watching when they have watched.
Just one thing I'm going to throw at your viewers. How important was the development of young players when Eddie Gray was there? And just work out all the young players when he was manager and when he was at the academy that came through under his stewardship. And I'm going to guess off the top of my head, and I'm not looking at Google or anything like that, I would say you're going well into double figures. You go back to Sheridan, Irwin, you know, you look at Terry Phelan, and then you go and you look at the players that he brought through when he was second to David O'Leary. And I think that was probably one of the best decisions Howard Wilkinson ever made, was getting Eddie Gray in. Yeah. And I just think, I know you're not going to get an Eddie Gray out there. Someone like Eddie Gray would be the perfect guy to win there to bring through some of these players. That's just my thoughts. Yeah. I leave you on that one.
It saves you. Let us know in the comments if you know how many players came through the U ranks. I'd love to know viewers, as
well. Get involved in the comments and just say, what do you think of that? Was the big factor Eddie Gray's involvement? And remember one thing, we've only won ever 2 U Cups, 93 and 97. So Paul Hart, Eddie Gray, good cop, bad cop, great combination. But they brought players through.
Good cop, badder cop. Yeah. Those who know Paul Hart. Yeah. Folks, we will wrap it up there. Massive thanks to everyone for watching tonight. If you could stick a like, and if you're not subscribed, feel free to subscribe to the channel as well. And a massive thank you as always to Gerry McDermott. A big shout out to the lads in the Camden Whites as well. You can catch in the Camden pub in Dublin anytime there's a Leeds game on. Check out their Facebook page as well for any information of that. And the Leeds United under 13s, I believe, Gerry, are playing St. Pat's on Friday.
Yeah, actually, I believe I'm up at 4:30 in the morning, heading to Dublin Airport to collect these boys. They're playing St. Pat's at 11:45 up at Cherry Orchards grounds tomorrow. If anybody from the Dublin area is free, come up and have a look at what we have at under 13 level. Admittedly, they're very young. And then they're going on to Galway. Andy Wood, who's one of the He's an inspiration, and I think I've said it before. I don't use the word legend very, very seldom, but to me, he's a legend at Leeds United. Nearly 30 years there. He's seen this, been this, done it all, and he's coming. He's doing a workshop. He's doing a presentation. He's an amazing guy, and I hope it's a good weekend.
Yeah, I'm sure it will be. Details again, Leeds United Whites page on Facebook as well, if you want to get some details from Gerry and the lads there, as well as the Camden Whites, so you can check out more information on the watch alongs and the the meetups they have as well. Folks, massive thanks. Appreciate it. I'll see you tomorrow morning for the news. Mind yourself. Good evening. Talk to you later. Bye.